I feel like it can go two ways. You can either let it define you, or you can grow through it and learn from it and become a better version of yourself. And it was a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of resilience and perseverance. But at the end of the day, I'm actually very blessed and very grateful through the experiences that I learned, and excited to share my story, but more importantly, the lessons that I learned along the way to your audience and community today. The picture you're probably going to see is I was a personal trainer, very healthy at the time, working out 6-7 days a week, eating almost to a T, counting my calories and my macronutrients, which are protein, fats, and carbs, everything. So at that time, personal trainer, wellness director, and basically my life was dedicated towards my health. And for me, actually though, I did have anxiety for sure. I was 20 at that time. I was 24 years old. I had just gotten done with college, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I think it had brought a lot of anxiety to my life. And I had, when I say anxiety, I would have panic attacks, things like that, but I was able to overcome that. And, just before I was, of course, diagnosed with cancer. And, so really my life predicated around health. And, I would say I want to say it was about 5 months before I was diagnosed was when I met my girlfriend, Lauren, too, which is going to be a vital part of this story. When me and Lauren just started dating, which was around May, June, we started doing all of these summer activities together. We'd go hiking, we'd go kayaking, pretty much everything, just especially as a brand new couple. And all of a sudden I started to notice these minor back pains. And at the time I was in the best shape of my life. So I was like, okay, I'm lifting a lot. I'm working out a lot. It's got to be the workouts. And as the weeks went by, as the months went by, it got worse and worse and worse. And of course, at 24 years old, you think you're invincible, you're stubborn, you don't want to go to a doctor. Lauren was saying, hey, listen, you're just not the same person as you were. Now it's coming on July, and you're not the same person you were in May and June. We should go get you checked out. And I said, no, I'll go to a chiropractor. So I went to a chiropractor. Basically, they tried to adjust me, but still got worse and worse and worse. So that's kind of how things started to progress. And it got to the point really where it was extremely hard for me to even get up and walk. And I was this was probably early August now, still crazy stubborn. And every time I go places, I would just complain about my back. And then one night I was over at Lauren's house, and I ended up puking up blood that night. And that right away was like, okay, go to the hospital. I got rushed to the emergency room. They did a blood test on me, found out that I had lost 2/3 of the blood circulating in my body, which is equivalent to a gun wound shot. Rushed me in, gave me 6 bags of blood, rushed me into an emergency surgery to figure out what was causing the bleeding. Thought it was an ulcer. So they, when they went to that surgery, thought it was an ulcer. And of course they did the blood tests to make sure, because they saw, obviously I wasn't just, puking up blood, but also, the other way as well. So, when I woke up the next day after surgery, I thought I was okay. I mean, they gave me 6 bags of blood. So it really energized me. I mean, the time I went to that hospital when I was puking up blood, I could barely even walk. Like, I was so dizzy, so tired, barely could even see. I'm surprised, most of them, your hemoglobin, I believe, should be around 15 for a male. And I was 4.5 to 5. And they're literally anything under 5, you shouldn't even be awake, honestly. And I was right there. So that next morning when I woke up, I'm thinking it's over. And of course my doctor walks in, sits down with me. And I mean, as soon as I saw him, he had this blank stare in his eyes, and I knew something was just completely wrong. So he sits down with me, grabs my hand, and he says, Matt, we found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We don't know which cancer it is yet, but we do believe it is cancer. And we have to rush you to the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic immediately. And so I live in Cleveland, and thank goodness, I have one of the best hospitals in the world, right at my doorstep. So within a day or two, I mean, they were doing anything they could. They got me to the hospital, and that's where they did a ton of tests to figure out what type of cancer I had. So they did an ultrasound, they did blood work, they were doing, I couldn't even tell you all of them. I was so, obviously for myself, I was in so much shock and just kind of not really knowing what was going on. But
Right.
all of a sudden, like, after a day or so, they came to me and they told me, they're like, you have the highest stage of testicular cancer, which is stage 3C. Now, a lot of people say they have stage 4 cancer, but I've asked my oncologist multiple times and he says there's actually no stage 4, it's just stage 3C. They can call it stage 4, but it's only stage 3C. So whatever. I had the highest stage of testicular cancer, and usually they track your blood marker. So they have what's called your AFP marker, and it's a blood tumor marker, and you want it to be under 5, I believe, to pretty much be considered okay and healthy. And mine was over 65,000. To put that in perspective, it was so high it was off the charts. There's a lot of story of resilience in there. When I was first diagnosed, I remember looking at my parents, because it was just my parents at the time. So Lauren didn't know, nobody knew. It was just me and my parents in that room. And I remember looking at them and they're crying. And for me, I think the only thing, and I'm very faith-based, I'm Christian, so I'll share my story as a Christian, to each their own on their faith. But I really think God put this strength in me the second that I heard that news. And for some reason, I told myself, I'm going to be strong for my parents, for Lauren, when she hears this news, for my friends and family. And I started looking at life as everything is happening for me, not to me. I'm going to say that one more time. Everything in life is happening for me, not to me. And what I mean by that is, if you start looking at life as everything is happening to me, you start making excuses. You start blaming other people. You start letting cancer define you. But when you start saying, how is this happening for me? Then you can learn from it. Then you can grow from it and say, hey, listen, this is unfair. This is unexpected. But guess what? I am dictating my happiness throughout this journey, or my mental strength, my emotional strength. Right. I said, I'm going to use this as a lesson and grow through this experience. And yes, I will have ups and downs. So I really had that mindset, and that was kind of it. So all my emotions came out when I saw Lauren, being willing to express what you're going through. And I said, I'm going to be strong for my parents, and be strong for Lauren, and be strong for my family. And I was strong. But at a point, once I got the rest of the Cleveland Clinic is when all my friends and family started flooding in. Then all of a sudden I see Lauren. And I was so nervous because I didn't know if she still wanted to be with me, because she was only dating me for 2.5, 3 months at that point. And to put that burden on her was like, I understood it if she didn't want to be around. But not only was she like, I'm going to be around, but she was going to be there every step of the way. And I just remember hugging and then letting all of my emotions out. It was like all this baggage that was on my shoulders, I was able to release. And I want to talk mostly to the men out there. It is okay to express what you're going through, to share your vulnerability, to share your emotions. That is what allows us to relieve the anxiety, relieve the depression, to relieve the stress in our lives by expressing our emotions to people we know, like, and trust and love in our life. And that's what I needed to do. So it was a big push, and it really made a difference moving forward.